London Underground trains are the envy of the world. Their complexity and their usual efficiency are taken for granted by everyone. It's a system that's been built up over the last 125 years or so. We're going to look at some of the events of the last few years. Some of the film we're going to use is very old and grainy. It's included because of its importance, however. We go back now to the Second World War. This station was built for a film set, but it leads us nicely to this old film made during the Battle of Britain. It tells how the London Underground continued maintaining and servicing tube stock during turbulent times. The early morning trains still arrived on time to take workers from the leafy suburbs to business in town, disregarding the air raids above them. Some very old stock was around then, and we freeze on this one. Note the gas masks and tin helmets carried by some. In post-war days, London Transport still had steam-hauled trains. British Railways supplied the locos on this charming film made by Alan Wilmot of the Chesham branch. It has worked as a shuttle for most of its life. Steam traction ended in 1960. Some of the coaches went to the Bluebell Railway.
Oh, that's all come over the back, yeah?
Today, the Chalfont shuttle to Chesham still runs, and nothing has changed at the end of the line. Underground trains didn't get as much attention as the glamorous steam expresses of the period. Mr. Roy Couch took these scenes on the Watford line. The mixture of metropolitan trains and steam at Harrow brings us to the last year or so of LT's steam engines. A visit to Neasden, the main London transport depot in 1969, found plenty of red tube trains about. Lurking at the back could be found 3 ex-Great Western pannier tanks. These are the last of 11 that LT had bought. They were used on works trains on the surface and metropolitan lines, carrying mostly stores and rubble to be moved to Croxley Tip. For some reason, today the steam crane was being prepared for use. The reason was soon quite clear. That day, very early in the morning, a tube train had crashed into a battery loco standing in the station, killing the driver. Then one day in 1971, London Transport decided to have a farewell to steam day when they withdraw the last 3 panniers. This is L94 going off to the big city to take part in a final show on its last day working for London Transport. That day our film unit had 4 cameramen all over the route to get some comprehensive pictures of the occasion. Today, TV crews and notable railway enthusiasts were on hand to witness the final run of a London Transport steam train. L94 slowly creeps forward to greet its fans and stops for the many hundreds of cameras and recorders. It was hauling a special works train for track maintenance all the way to Neasden. The press followed up in a new tube train, and it was arranged for us to pass it at Finchley Road. At Neasden, an immense crowd awaited it. London Transport certainly underestimated the interest it would receive. And so here's L94's triumphant arrival at Neasden Yard. The crowds were immense by now, and it was soon surrounded by people hoping to talk to the driver and take his autograph. L94 was eventually restored to Great Western livery and appeared at the Shildon Cavalcade in 1975. Among the steam locos here at Quainton Road Station can be seen Met Tank No. 1, L44, splendidly restored to Metropolitan livery. Also here representing Quainton Road's metropolitan past, some old stock being restored. An old film made in 1966 takes a look at London's Victorian past. King's Cross before the front was remodelled. Euston being rebuilt, and new shafts for an improved underground station. At Paddington, Circle Line trains in view. A major tunnel roof repair scheme was underway then. This is at Tower Hill. The old film continues to tell the story of the Metropolitan. Elegant St. John's Wood houses found stations being built in their front gardens. This is Marlborough Road Station, empty then, now a smart restaurant. Moorgate looks a mess at this time too, still bomb damaged. Today the station is under an office development. On the Hammersmith line at White City, the trains pass over an interesting site, the old Wood Lane station of 1908. It was built to serve the White City exhibition grounds. This photograph shows how large it was, and the car sheds of the Central London Railway depot at the bottom. Today, the steeply curved platforms of the 1908 station can be explored. Through holes in walls, one can find passageways to the platforms built in 1920 to serve the extension to Ealing. This is Platform 3 and was last in use in 1947, as the posters prove. This is not a ghost train, but a real one going to Shepherd's Bush. Nearby, another platform, also steeply curved, has tracks just to the depot. This is much smaller and newer than the original one here. Meanwhile, Wood Lane is still open to any vandals wandering in. And surprisingly, a large amount of the 1908 exhibition buildings are still here. The New Works programme of 1935 proposed taking over many suburban steam-hauled services and converting them into extensions of existing tube lines. Mr. Cooper shot this film about the LNER locos and local trains in 1959. Suburban services were in the hands of the immensely successful N2s. Up and down the two steep tunnels each side of the main station, they hauled trains from Moorgate to towns in Hertfordshire and Middlesex. Highgate High-Level Station in 1961. Passenger service had ceased, but the lines were there. The occasional goods train would go through. The promised tube trains never came due to the war. Beyond the tunnels is Park Junction. The branch to Alexandra Palace went off to the right. At least tube trains reached here. Highgate Wood sidings were still in use then, trains coming down a track from East Finchley. Going down the Palace branch, one comes across plenty of evidence of the electrification work that had been done. Cranley Gardens Station. The viaduct to Muswell Hill. The signal box near the palace was a magnificent structure once. Alexandra Palace in 1961. The original 1936 television studios were still being used by BBC Television News then. The little LNER station, under the grand steps of the main palace, was still in use as an entrance to its demolished platforms. The whole area was used for giant car auctions. After the fire of 1980, the palace has a new roof. the little station just about survives outside still. Back at Highgate High Level in 1986, everything's still there except the track. Park Junction today. No sign of the branch, just trees. The car sheds have a new roof, but no tracks. We understand that plans are in hand to bring the depot back into use soon. East Finchley, a handsome design of the 30s, very much underused. The middle tracks were for steam trains then, and later for stock movements to Highgate Depot. Finchley Central, however, is very busy handling trains to Barnet and Mill Hill East. The temporary waiting room dates from 1939 and is still in use. The station buildings are still very much as they were in steam days. Trains to Mill Hill travel over this attractive viaduct. Some would say this is one of London's tattiest stations. Others would say it's kept its country charm. The line used to go to Edgware until 1964. At Mill Hill, the Hale, only in winter one can see the remains of the platforms that used to be here. Under another arch, a new platform was visible, but it's now covered with dumped rubble. Edgware trains are nearby, however. Edgware Station in the 30s. The left-hand block was pulled down in 1939, ready for the new platforms and tracks to go to Bushey. Today, only half of the station is in use. Over on the right, space for the Bushey trains. The left-hand side is still shored up after all these years. The LNER station in its last days in 1966. This 1966 film shows the trains bypassing the flyover built to take them over the new track, southbound, to join the LNER track bed. Today that flyover is buried under trees. A sidewall shows here. The branch to Finchley, never used. On the A41, brick arches for the line that never got built. The Green Belt policy of the post-war authorities stopped creeping development, spoiling London's green spaces in the suburbs. Aldenham was built as a car depot, made aircraft during the war, and until 1986 was a bus maintenance works. Optimistically, these destination boards were made for the 1938 trains. In 1967, a new underground line was opened. A huge crowd gathered to try it out and buy the first ticket. The line only ran as far as Highbury then. As usual, things were not quite ready on opening day. A feature of the line are the murals. Heathrow Airport at last was connected to the underground. An extension of the Piccadilly line reached here from Hounslow. In 1981, the line to Ongar was in danger of closing. This film was made about events that year. This train is travelling over one of the most idyllic sections of the Central Line. There are no derelict houses, no dank tunnels or slum backyards. It's at the end of one of London's busiest lines, from Epping to Ongar. It has only 3 stations, but now they display this notice. Steam trains were still running when Mr. Alan Wilmot made this film. Electric trains were on the way though, as in this LT photograph. It's 1981 and time to have a good look at the branch. At Epping, London trains use one platform and Ongar trains depart from the other. They run only during rush hours. The current losses amount to £600,000 a year. Now we're approaching North Weald Station. It's fairly busy because of nearby new housing estates. Now, Blakehall. It was open when this film was made, but closed a few months later. Now approaching Ongar Station. The line is under threat once again because of the recently announced modernisation plans for the Central Line. This poster was printed, ready for the closure. A group of people formed a preservation society with the aims of taking over the line and running tourist steam trains. Another idea was to run vintage electric trains. So the committee visited Ealing Common Depot to have a look at some old District Line trains and to find some suitable stock. A big problem. The M11 overbridge, when built, only left clearance for tube stock. The Jubilee line opened. Originally it was to be called the Fleet Line, but it was so late being completed that they changed the name. BR took over a tube line from Moorgate. It had been the Northern City Line. It was designed to run full-size trains when first opened. The Post Office Railway doesn't get much attention usually. No public stations or access. Its tunnels run right through the city. Its odd little trains, no drivers, hurtle about under the streets.
Thanks, mate.
In October 1987, it celebrated its Diamond Jubilee, and visitors were allowed to see the new trains, all tarted up. Network Southeast did not forget its own underground line when the system was being smartened up for the future. Imitation marble finish for its flat walls complements the shapes of the platforms. Despite this, the line is still known as the Drain. It was opened by the London and South Western Railway in 1898 in order to take passengers to the city. These American-built cars were assembled at Eastleigh. They were in service right up to 1940 when the present stock arrived. Today's engine spotters should take note that even these cars are going soon. Meanwhile, the friendly staff always welcome enthusiasts here. Returning trains use the other platform and have to be signalled into the depot for reversing later.
That's lovely, Carol.
On the right, in a moment, will be seen the tunnel for the hoist used to take the stock up to the surface. A tight bend in the tunnel has a speed restriction marked by blue lights on the left wall. Bank Station is noted for its travelator. A little signal cabin at Bank has this display showing positions of trains. When Sunday comes, it's maintenance day. We're going to see why the line is called the drain. Natural seepage, they call it, but it requires several pumps to keep it under control, as our guide comments.
Here are the pumps. The water continually bloody hell. Down in there, that's 20 foot deep. This is. It's cool, quite.
As the Armstrong hoist is going to be used today, the Annette's lock is checked over. This is interconnected with the signal box. The hoist is just long enough for one car, but today its newest vehicle is coming up. It arrived in December and is battery powered, an advanced track maintenance machine. Amazingly, the hoist is hydraulic powered. Nearby, withdrawn stock for scrap. The southern region has other tube trains in use. As all enthusiasts know, old tube trains have been running on the Isle of Wight since steam days. On a bright, breezy Easter day, we take a look at them. These Londoners seem to think they've seen these trains before, somewhere. From the fresh and clean Isle of Wight trains to some of London's dirtiest stations. At this station, scrubbing off the old graffiti has revealed the old name. Oval Station, revealing its City and South London origins. Lack of platform staff results in the occasional smoker, and nearby, the event needs to be recorded, if only for posterity. A visit to King's Cross 2 months later reveals a very odd-looking station. No advertisements and no directional signs either. Looking on the bright side, the free entertainment offered goes well with the magnificent refurbishment scheme now going on. Hopefully some of the old atmosphere can be kept like this. The 1938 stock in 1977, still soldiering on. A survey on smoking was carried out on a 38.
On your right, lighting up.
A 75% increase in passengers in 5 years meant a chronic shortage of trains. So back came the 38 stock to be seen anywhere on the Northern Line, especially when you didn't have a camera on you. A brand new line, the Docklands, opened in 1987. We include it here because it will be an underground line soon. Trains sometimes break down and have to be driven by the captain. Trains still stop at Canary Wharf, despite the fact there's no station there. Alongside Fenchurch Street Station they terminate, but not for long. Trains will dip into this hole and go underground to Bank. Next to the site of the King William Street station is another shaft. Tons of London clay to dispose of. The plan of the tunnels going through to a new Bank station. Finally, in this recording, we take a look at the prototype trains of the 1990s. They're sometimes to be seen at Neasden. When they see people with cameras, they creep away. But being shy, they hide behind other trains if possible. On hearing a rumour that they're at Ruislip, we go in search. After we film everything there, they try to get in the back way behind these old Sleet locos when we were changing films. At South Ealing, we were luckier. Up and down all day they go, sometimes coupling up with this motley works train. As schoolboys admire them, or plan the graffiti sessions, the train divides for further tests. Certainly very colourful trains.